Never be embarrassed about something that's happening to you, even if it is a deeply embarrassing thing for you. Mention it to your girlfriend, mention it to a work colleague, or I don't know, whoever you enjoy talking with, and someone that you don't really feel judges you.
Welcome to a brand new episode of HEISS, Baby. Today's guest on our show is Elisabeth Scott, and that's the reason why today's episode is coming to you in English language. We talked to Lizzie about her personal experience with peri-menopause, her journey so far with suffering from endometriosis, and her quest to find information and medical help as a woman of color in the great city of Berlin, which is, spoiler alert, not as easy as one might think.
So today, we never gave that podcast an English title, so it's HEISS, Baby in German.
I like
but
it. I said it to someone, they were like, "That's cool."
So it should be like hot baby, but I think we stay with HEISS, Baby because it's the name of our podcast.
I like it too.
Today with us in the studio, and it's actually really our first studio guest. Like the first interviews we did were on Zoom, and amazing. We have Elisabeth Scott with us in the studio today, which is amazing. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And like my short introduction is, so Elisabeth Scott is from London. She lives in Berlin now, working as a nanny for, I don't have a proper translation, rich clients. Or
the correct term to use is high profile nanny.
Okay. High profile nanny.
I'm a high profile nanny and I work for ultra high net worth individuals.
Okay, that sounds much better than
sounds
what I
better
said.
than saying rich people.
Yeah, absolutely. She's especially working with newborns from the age from 0 to 0, like from being born to 3 years. But that is not like what she's doing all her life. Before she studied economics and she worked in the financial sector.
Yeah, correct.
And has even like that interested me a lot. Like she worked for the finances of race car drivers.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Red Bull Racing.
And she gave her that job to become a high-profile nanny.
Genau.
And now she lives in Germany. She lives in Berlin. She's lived in London before. I said that you lived in Paris before, but like in the first conversation we had, you told us that like you're a bit stuck in Berlin now because of Brexit. So you can't just go back to Paris and work there.
Exactly.
Although we would all like to
keep me
live
here.
And that absolutely. For us, it's a good thing that you're staying here. But we all wish that you had the freedom to
move around
if you wanted to.
Yeah.
So that's the first introduction from Lizzie. And Mario is already grabbing the phone to ask his first question. So go ahead.
We're gladly not grabbing the phone, but the mic. Well, it's a pleasure to have you here, Lizzie, on our show.
Thank you for cleaning that
up. So I recall when I reached out to you a couple of weeks ago on Instagram, I was messaging you, and it's not that we are like friends or close friends. Let's say we are part of the same community. We met a couple of times, but we haven't like talked in quite a while. And I remember I was sitting there and like texting you and said, "Hey, Lizzie, do you want to talk about menopause on a podcast?" And like before like pressing send, I was like, is this really a cool idea?
Is this going to come across weird?
Yeah, right. Is this like, so my question is, am I the first male asking you about menopause, or what was your reaction back in the moment?
you really were actually. And that, other than any other thought, my first reaction was like, but he's a man asking me. And then I was like, actually, this is pretty cool, because I think it's great when anyone opens the conversation on taboo subjects. But I think it's even better when a man has something to say on it. And it was like long, it was concise, it had points in it about what he wanted to talk about or convey. He was respectful, and I was like, this is brilliant. Like, I'm not sure what exactly I'm going to talk about, but I'm up for it.
That's great to hear. Thanks. Thanks for that. So yeah, that's why you're here, and that's why I guess we dig into our conversation, right? Do you want to kick it off?
Yeah, I want to kick it off. It's because like we had already had a Zoom conversation like a few weeks back, just talking about the topic, talking about the podcast.
Yeah.
And while we were doing that, I thought like we could also like already had recorded that.
We could have done it. Yeah, it was a good conversation.
Yeah, it was a really great conversation. I was so looking forward to like make it even longer and sit here with you. And I was really admiring like you're telling your personal story so open and so frankly. That it was really great. And it touched me. And so I'm gonna dive in that conversation again.
Yeah, sure.
You had like experienced endometriosis. Experiencing endometriosis, and had a couple of treatments with that. And before we talk about menopause, I think it's important to tell that story because it's completely linked.
Yeah.
So can you tell like the audience again? Your story with the endometriosis and what came with it?
Yeah, so I was diagnosed at Charité Hospital almost 3 years ago. Not quite, almost 3 years ago. And from doing like a medical timeline of like symptoms and previous doctor's reports, we anticipated that I'd been suffering for about 6 years. So, which is pretty much the average amount of time it takes for a woman to be properly diagnosed with endometriosis. It's between 6 to 8 years.
What happened when you were finally diagnosed? So what was the treatment?
What was the treatment or what were my feelings? Both.
Well, both. Maybe start with the feelings and then with the treatment.
It was a little bit of a scary diagnosis, actually, because I didn't still fully understand what endometriosis was. Like many people, I had to do my homework, look it up. But I basically went to my gynecologist. She did an ultrasound on me and she was just straight away, she was just like, oh my God, you need to go to hospital. Like, this is not cool what's happening there. And I can't believe you didn't know about this before.
Like immediately?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think from my gynecologist appointment to operation table, it was 10 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very scary.
Yeah, it was pretty scary. I had a supracervical hysterectomy. And in hindsight, I now know that wasn't the best operation for me. I should have had a total hysterectomy because it's a hormonal disease. And so although my symptoms are alleviated and I live a slightly more comfortable life than before, it could have been improved drastically by just removing everything because it's basically a disaster that I'm still releasing an egg every month.
Would that be an option to do a total hysterectomy?
This is what I'm campaigning for, but sadly it seems to be something that's not done willingly. Like, you really have to advocate for yourself. And it's been, almost 3 years now that I'm asking, please give me another operation, and they're like, actually, no. And the best way that doctors tend to describe it is, sorry, I'm a bit snotty. Like, say, for example, if you have a tattoo and you go to see another artist and they're like, I prefer not to do cover-ups. I'd like to start fresh somewhere else. That's basically what's happening with my body. They're basically like, you had this operation at a clinic that's run by men. We don't really agree with how they operate and we don't want to finish their dirty work. But for me, it was just like, I'm sick and I have a very renowned female professor who's very good at her work in it. And we had a consultation and she said she can help me. But the wait time was something like 3 or 4 months, which now doesn't sound so long to wait for any medical appointment that involves a serious operation. 3-4 months is quite fast. But then I went to the other hospital and they were like, we can do it for you next week.
Okay.
And from the initial reaction of my gynecologist that was like, oh my God, something's going to happen. I was like, 10 days is great. Like, let's do it.
But, like, was the that it was good to do it so quickly.
Yeah.
But like in the, it seems like in the aftermath, you would have liked in total hysterectomy.
Yeah, I really would have. But you don't know that until you do your homework. And actually, sadly, it's not my job to do all of the work. It's a medical, it's a professional medical person for them to give me all the information I need to make an informed decision. And I don't feel like I had that.
Well, yeah, thanks for sharing this. And also what we know is like even given the fact that you went through all these treatments, it's still not great, the overall situation. And then like apparently Peri-Menopause was like knocking on the door and said, hey Lizzie, I have a couple.
Knocking the door or kicking the door down?
Oh, well, yeah, that is the question. Was it more like gently knocking, or was it basically, hey, here I am, deal with me?
Actually, if I'm completely honest, I think it was a gentle knock. Because you also have to try and understand yourself first, what the symptoms are and what's happening to your body. So I guess right after my operation, there was like the honeymoon period, you know. I was like, oh my God, I'm saved. Da-da-da. I'm going to live such a great life. I'm going to like go dancing, have copious amounts of sex, move my body in very strange ways that I never did before. Like it's really debilitating, endometriosis. I don't think people fully understand how like the constraints that you're in when you don't have like the power over your body. So there was this great period, and then I think it was maybe not until 6 or 7 months after the operation that I started to get the hot flushes and like just sweating, like loads of sweating when I was sleeping. Not because I was doing something, I was literally sleeping.
Yeah, it was just, I mean, you had lots of sex. No, okay.
No, I was just sweating from being still. Yeah, and then I just thought, okay, I'm not sure if that's usual or not. I'll just give my body some time to recover, do a full year, go into it, and then we'll see. I can ask questions. And then after the hot flushes, what came next? Was it, I don't know if it was like poor skin, fatigue. I don't know. It just like, then the barracks opens, you know?
but I'm curious, like when these like symptoms first appeared, were you like immediately aware that this is perimenopause?
No, absolutely not. It's always, you know, Google doctor or something, you know.
So, but the Google doctor said something like cancer, like as it always does.
It's always the C word first, you know. It's like, we're not a professional. You should seek help or blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I am seeking help from you, Google.
But like, when did you realize that it might have something to do with menopause, and how did you realize it?
After talking to other women. Yeah, I think really things like this, which is why I'm so passionate about it, is that you can't keep these subjects taboo anymore. You have to talk about your period. You have to talk about your feelings. You have to talk about your skin and weird rashes, and you have to talk about everything. So it was only after talking to other girlfriends or older women or my mum even, I was like, hey, mum, we never actually spoke about the menopause. Have you had it? Like, you're the age where you're supposed to get it. And she was like, oh, yeah, it was awful, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I have no experience of you suffering the menopause. Like,
yeah, me neither.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Yeah, it's the same. I never talked to my mother too, but did she, like, could she provide some help for you? So how she went through it? Or was it just like she suffered and she just went through it?
Yeah, I guess she had some tips and tricks, but then again for my mum, she's not familiar with the term perimenopause. She's just like, either you've got it or you haven't. So then it was kind of like tit for tat. It's like, well, I don't have this, and also I'm like 20 years younger than you, mum. So, you know. So yeah, I think it was a mixture of her experience, girlfriends, Google doctor, and then my actual gynecologist.
I think what you just said, that basically, even given the fact that there are like 2 decades between you and your mom, you both are kind of like experiencing menopause symptoms, is like a first hint of what is also like the topic of today's story, that apparently women of color do experience these menopause-related symptoms for a way longer period of time. Is this something you also have been aware of early on?
Yeah. I mean, lots of medical differences between like people of color and Caucasian people. So I wasn't like fully of the knowledge that I would experience this longer, but I know how long my mum experienced it, and then her sister, and then other people in our family, and then did a bit of research, and then it's just Yeah,
I was, when you said like she still experiences menopause symptoms, or is it done now?
It's done. Now it's definitely done. She's 22 years older than me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how long do you think she experienced those symptoms?
If I have to think, she definitely started in her late 40s. Yeah. 40. I would say like a good 10 years.
Oh, that sounds awful.
Yeah, which is why now I'm like, if I'm perimenopausal now, if I can have a simple operation that just like wipes it all out, puts me straight into menopause, and I just get it over and done with. I don't want to do perimenopause and wait for until in my 50s until I might get it. I don't know. Like, that's crazy.
May I ask how old you are now?
Yeah, I'm 41.
41.
I forget.
Okay. No.
I honestly forget how old I am.
That is called brain fog. That we learned.
I think it's called selective memory.
Yeah, you can't blame anything on the brain fog. I keep forgetting my own age too all the time. And I did that. Yeah, I know, but I did that. And you forget anything. But when you realize like that it might be perimenopause, what was like the next step of getting better or dealing with it better for you?
Supplements, diet, things that I can do by myself without involving the doctor, because basically I know I have been to my doctor. First of all, she told me it's ridiculous. There's no way at 41 you can have any symptoms of menopause.
Even when she knew about the operation?
Yeah, she was just like, nope, no way, impossible.
Okay.
And I was just like, okay. Need to seek other medical advice. But yeah, the wait list, we had this conversation, different doctors, are they able to speak English? Do they actually understand first what endometriosis is and the operation I had? And then can they link that to what I'm going through now? So basically I just take lots of vitamins and I get all of those weird hormonal ads on my phone. Like,
yeah, we know that too.
even I do. Do you have like a question?
Yeah, I have a question. But is this like the state right now? You don't really have good medical care.
Yeah.
You're just doing like good nutrition supplements.
Doing it on my own and just riding the wave. I'm surfing.
Okay, but that can't be like the solution for forever. So what's the plan like?
To find a really good gynecologist who can really advocate for me, work with me. I basically want the operation, but I've been told I can't have it unless I pay for it by myself, which I'm not going to do because it's extortionate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you never found a doctor who like said, okay, I'm not doing the full hysterectomy, but there's other options that we can like try, like taking hormones or something?
Yeah, it's always hormones. And it's like, take this, take that. I don't fully understand what it is that I'm taking or why you want me to take it. And the more I read about endometriosis and trying to suppress it with pills, it doesn't make sense. It just never makes sense to me. So either I need a doctor who can explain why I'm taking this exact pill and what this pill is doing to my body, or I can just find a natural alternative, because so far the only thing I found is that doctors say, take this will help you. And it's like, but why will it help me? And they're like, oh, it just will. You'll stop being in pain. Or I don't, it's just it's not enough information. It never is.
But did you try to take hormones? Or
yeah.
But
loads. I've I think now I'm on my 1, 2, 3. I think I'm on my 3rd packet of a different type of hormone that I've taken for months and then rejected.
Okay, because it didn't help?
Yeah, because I'm like almost 3 years now this January post-op. So yeah, just either the pain is suppressed, but I have like the usual pill symptoms of like being sad or weight gain or not understanding my emotions properly. Or then the second one is like a tummy upset or one that doesn't suppress the pain, or, you know, it's just, I can't win right now.
You mentioned that like part of your way dealing with all of this is like to closely monitor the way you eat. We talked to a nutritionist last week. That was super interesting.
Interesting.
But I also know that you are a passionate foodie, which is actually the reason why we met in the first place. So I'm obviously curious, what's your diet these days? What is helpful?
What is my diet these days? Oh no, this is where I get publicly shamed. Basically, I've come to the conclusion that I only have one life, and as far as I'm still in pain for not having this operation, I'm just going to go ahead and eat what I like, because actually food makes me happy. So I am conscious that the more vegan things, the more vegan behaviors that I adopt will benefit me, because having a hormonal disease, when you then eat other hormones from other animals, it takes the equilibrium off. So it doesn't make sense to eat meat and cheese and drink milk and things like that. But then I'm like, I lived in France for 9 years. Like, butter is life, all the cream, please, and a red steak.
You also have been very open about not being interested in having your own children.
Yeah.
How does this affect your view on menopause?
I've never ever thought about that ever. First of all, I'll be left in peace. Go through all of my emotions and body changes without somebody tugging at me, being like, I need help. But that's essentially what my job is anyway. I'm basically a mother. It's just as and when I want to be. So do I really escape the things that mothers do? I don't think so. It's just I can be very selective with when I choose to experience it.
What I would like to get a little bit deeper into is like your experience with doctors, like especially like a woman of color living in Germany, confronted, I think, most of the time with Caucasian doctors. And you said like sometimes the language is also a difficulty. Could you just describe, like in your experience, how they treat you? Yeah,
I think so. As a rule of thumb, medics here in Germany want to do better. They are aware of the influx of foreign people that have moved here, and they want to be seen as a very multicultural society, being able to help all people of different ethnic backgrounds and social classes. But when it comes down to it, I think there's like some kind of inherent xenophobia that they just can't escape it, you know? It's like making a comparison. Like, for example, on a website, if it says, yes, we can treat patients in like English, French, Spanish, and German, like it's a blah, blah. And then you get there and then they're like, oh, well, is it possible just to do this consultation in German? And it's like, well, no, I booked you because I can speak English and French and I understand my body in those languages before German. Can you speak those languages? Oh, yeah, but then I have to get, it's actually that doctor that speaks that language and not on this day. And you should have said in your footnotes and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, hi, are you trying to blame me for, I'm selecting your service because of what you advertise and now I'm being punished for it. So that's the first barrier you have to get over. And then because I also want to seem like I'm assimilated into German culture, right? So it's like, yeah, if you speak slowly in German, I'll understand what's happening with me. I definitely don't.
I was about to believe you.
I definitely don't. I get the gist of what they're trying to tell me, but still, for technical points, it's just better in your mother tongue.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's even like it's even hard to remember the hormones and stuff in German. So I just imagine like you would have to do all that in English too.
Yeah.
Oh.
So wait, I forgot the initial question.
It's like how you experience like the doctors treating you, being a woman of color, being not a German language native, although you understand German.
Yeah, so luckily for me, I've never been the kind of person that's suffered severe racism. Like I've lived abroad now for 15 years. I'm quite a confident woman. I don't really let people's opinions affect me too deeply. So maybe people are being racist to me and I don't really see it or I overlook it easily. So before that, I think the discrimination is the fact that I'm British and that I don't speak German and that everything has to be in English because it's easier. And why don't I try to speak German after 6 years of living here and things like that.
So my follow-up question was, I also believe that basically for doctors, it's like a double obstacle, right? The first obstacle is, oh my God, it's not my native language.
Yeah.
The second obstacle, which brings us to the topic of this podcast, is they are also not very used to talk about menopause, right? So what we learned from the people we talked with so far is menopause is not like automatically a big topic in your education as like a general doctor, right? So they also may not like to excuse their behavior, but just like to point out to the structural deficit like of this entire system, right? So that we as a society apparently are not very much ready to deal with menopause, let alone when it comes to people who don't speak our language.
Yeah, well, it's women's health in general, isn't it? It's like that it should be a separate category anyway, but it's like even medicines that are tested, they're not tested always on women or, you know, they test them on like animals and stuff. And it's like, you know, I find it wild. It's like, I agree completely with the point that you make, but it's like, it's 2023 now. Start doing the work, you know, do a new category in like whatever you're studying that includes this in it and then includes the differences between people of color and Caucasians because it's wildly different.
Did you, when you're supposed to living in Paris or living in the UK, was it different there? Like being in touch with doctors, like, of course, it was before like the Peri-Menopause began, but like generally speaking about health services, was it easier there? Did you see more like the willingness of, see the full picture?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, anyway, both of those cities that I lived in are way more multicultural than Berlin, full stop. Like I even had black doctors, like, so... Yes, they find it easier to talk to people about the differences in this and that. And I'm losing my trail of thought.
I know that's
it's like I'm thinking, but also
don't make the brain fog joke again, please.
No, I wasn't about like I forgot about the brain fog. Jesus, brain fog joke.
Brain fog.
Wow, that's where we are already. No, my point was you already answered the question perfectly. Okay. So you maybe lost track because you said like all the important things.
Okay.
I want to circle back to something you said earlier. Yeah. So this question goes to, where do you actually find then reliable advice and information, given the fact that the doctors apparently aren't a great source. Yeah. Google is a scary thing because Google you always end up dying soonish. So what are like, and then you mentioned you talk among friends about it, but they also kind of like grab their knowledge from somewhere. Can you name a couple like of sources that you're using?
Yeah, maybe not. Just different women's health pages, you know? So I guess people like, I'm following a lot of nutritionists and people like that on Instagram that have either written books or have their own websites and things like that. But then I really think I'm getting the bulk of my information through talking to girlfriends and then the information they get from their doctors, because other people have like different doctors, better doctors. They speak to their doctors in German, or someone else speaks to their family member who's been a gynecologist for 20 years, or, you know, so just pulling everything together and then changing the Google, changing the search engine notes.
But is it like among your friends, do you talk about the difference, how menopause affects Caucasian women and women of color? So are there other women of color in your circle of friends who are experiencing the same and who like with whom you can easier like
yeah, definitely
connect? Yeah,
it's almost a daily discussion.
Wow.
Yeah, really, it's like living in Germany, being a person of color or even mixed race, and actually even just as a Caucasian person, I had a really long conversation just yesterday with an amazing person. She's German, she's Caucasian, she's thin. Not that it has anything like your weight, but often with hormonal issues, you like gain a lot of weight or have different fluctuations that are hard to manage. So for her to say that she's been suffering with endometriosis for more than 10 years and that she doesn't feel seen by her doctors, they keep telling her she's been ridiculous because she's so young, she's so thin, she looks in perfect shape and of good health, and so it can't be that that's doing that to her body, it must be something else. And it's just like, what the hell? Are people just like mean to women? Like it's a woman thing. And then you have whatever your problem is on top of that. Language, nationality, other disabilities, family history. Yeah.
Would you consider going back to the UK to, let's put it that way, just get it done? Because it feels like there's so much that would have
so many obstacles. No. Because you need a whole separate podcast called The NHS. And that is just like a whole different crisis altogether.
We have this little format in the podcast to, like in between, ask questions. And I would like ask you to answer quickly.
Okay.
It's like
quick fire round.
Yeah, it's like dog or cat.
Okay.
And you say, I would say dog, so you could say cat,
okay.
but it's not that. So you don't have to decide on dog or cat. And because like Mario did the translation before, I was like earlier, I have to translate this. He already did it.
Oh, nice.
So he's going to do the questions.
Okay, quick fire round. Let's go.
Yeah, we can do a warm up. Natural wine or conventional wine?
Always natural wine.
This is how this game goes. Fish or tofu?
Fish.
Yoga or running?
Yoga.
Hormones or monk pepper?
What now?
Monk pepper, yeah. I looked it up. It's apparently...
I have absolutely no idea what that is, but actually I support the underdog, monk pepper.
Yeah, that sounds great. Pills or therapy?
Therapy.
Pride or stigma?
Ooh, pride.
TikTok or gynecologist?
I absolutely hate TikTok.
I know that feeling.
That was the short-lived pleasure.
I love questions.
Well, like this TikTok question comes for a reason because like a friend of ours, she informed herself a lot on TikTok about menopause.
Wow.
Because she didn't find proper information. Like she also did the Google thing, and then she was like, okay, I can't have like their studies. They're 4 years old and they're not even representative.
Oh, I am missing a trick then.
Yeah, maybe
it's my age. At least I didn't answer Facebook.
Face what? Yeah.
No, that friend is older than you are. So I don't think it's the age. Maybe like I think it's interesting because the monk pepper thing.
Yeah. I've
like
never heard of it.
And it's like, I think every German woman dealing with menopause has once like heard about monk pepper because it's like everywhere. But it's like, if you don't want to take hormones, lots of women take monk pepper.
Oh.
But they're like very different opinions on if it helps or not.
Okay. Interesting. Now I know.
Yeah, we're learning all a lot here at HEISS Baby.
Google's monk pepper.
Yeah, just I can send you a note later. So you are somewhere along the way with peri-menopause.
Exactly.
We talked a bit about how you realized what's going on, the obstacles you are facing.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for other women of color out there for what to do when they first experience weird symptoms? So I'm asking for your personal learning curve, since we established it's cool to learn from each other.
Yeah, definitely. The only piece of advice I would give is never be embarrassed about something that's happening to you, even if it is a deeply embarrassing thing for you. Mention it to your girlfriend, mention it to a work colleague, or I don't know, whoever you enjoy talking with, and someone that you don't really feel judges you. Definitely mention it. It's not something to keep for yourself. And then secondly, don't stop advocating for yourself, because if you don't want to do the work, nobody else is going to do it for you, basically.
Do you follow these rules yourself all the time? Yeah, you do.
Not all the time. Sometimes it's really hard. It gets to you. It's super depressing. It's like, why do I have to keep advocating for myself? Can't somebody just pick me up and, Superman, fly away? I've got you, Lois. Don't worry. Blah, blah.
Would be nice.
Sometimes I want that. Sometimes. But yeah, no, I have to do it. Have to be the strong girl, And that's it for us. It's like, be the strong girl or, diminish.
But have you been you said the first point you made was talk about it, talk with someone who you can trust, talk about what is going on with you.
Yeah.
Have you also done this from the start?
Yeah, I'm quite a talkative person.
And in what way did it help you? In what way did this talking about it make it better?
It made me feel not alone in my problem, I'm because it started 39, right? So it's this is happening to me. What's wrong with me? Maybe I shouldn't mention it because then people will think I'm weird or, but then I'm actually, I'm pretty sure I'm not going through this alone. I just have to try and find out who else it's happening to and who else is going to be brave enough to admit it.
You say you're a talkative person and you value this much, talking about with someone who understands, values it. That must make you a person people lean on to too, right? People coming to you with their...
Exactly. And I don't mind it. I'd rather somebody came to me to ask what I thought about such and such than sitting there alone wondering if they're weird.
I was wondering, as I said earlier, it's it seems such an obstacle. It's you have so many mountains to climb, and still you're climbing and being on top and still looking down, saying no, that's not where I wanted to go. So I feel a little bit your way is not you don't know where the way actually is right now.
Yeah, it's true. I don't really know. So more help. I mean, great. I'll take it.
But what would be what would you wish for? What would be a really help for you on this way?
To find a doctor who really understands and really understands, not just poor you, it's been tough. I'm a good doctor. I'm a nice doctor. I've helped many people. But it's have you helped a woman of color? Can you speak English? I'm so sorry I can't speak German, but can you speak English? Or point me in the right direction for someone who can, I'm not saying it all has to be on someone, but I'm not a doctor. So it has to be a doctor that helps me. I can't help myself all the way.
So for other people listening to us,
that's what I
do you have a recommendation? Please send your recommendations to baby@heissbaby.de. Sorry, do you want to repeat it?
No, I'm not mansplaining.
Damn it. We talked a lot about the unpleasantries of menopausing and all the other stuff.
Yeah.
But our idea for when we first talked about doing this podcast was, this all is kind of challenging.
Yeah.
But it's also a period in your life where you experienced a lot of growth, right? You are more grown up, you are
100%.
adult.
Yeah.
Can you share a bit about the cool things being like in your very early 30s?
Dear listener, you might have realized that Lizzie is in her early 40s and not in her early 30s, but I got a bit carried away by her energy. Apologies for that.
It's like, of course, dealing with your female body, but we also want like to tell a story about like, hey, it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of womanhood, etc., etc.
I love getting older. I mean, at some point I do want to stop because I also...
At what age? What age did you pick to stop?
Haven't decided. Maybe now because I keep forgetting how old I am. So it seems 41 is like the middle of still being quite young, but also not having to experience all the stuff that's associated with being older, which is basically your body breaking down. But yeah, if I compare myself now to when I was like very early 30s and being that, oh my God, the world's going to end. I'm 30. I'm not married. I don't have kids. I don't have a mortgage. It's like, oh my God, I don't want any of those things even now. So, you know, I think you know yourself more. You're more sure of your opinion, where you want to go, what you're doing, your career path, the friends that you keep, the things that you still aspire to achieve. Yeah, just it's really fun knowing yourself and being really sure and not having other people so easily change your mind.
It's also meant the next question is a bit related to that, but also with the people we talked before on the show, they also said it's still not great, the state of things when it comes to talking about women's health, etc. But there is improvement. Is this also something you would support because you have been like vocal about your topics for more than 2 weeks? Do you see that things are getting better, that the environment is a little bit more open-minded, or is this...
Yeah, it is getting better, and it will only get better the more people agree to talk about it. That's the only way you can do it with anything. You can apply it to literally anything. People banding together, talking about a subject, sharing information. Oh, actually, I came across this and I thought of you because you mentioned it. So here and there, and you know.
But is it at any point hard to talk about? Because for me, when we started this podcast, I was okay when I'm going out there doing a podcast on menopause, that like makes public that I might be in menopause, or I might be experiencing peri-menopause. And that was kind of a step for me to do that. Is it like, has it always been that easy for you to like, I speak my truth and it's...
I mean, it is a step. It's definitely a bold step, but I like to think of it more now as taking one for the team, you know? It's like, it might be a bit uncomfortable, but I know by doing it, I'm going to help at least one other person. And then when you have the confirmation that actually you've helped 20 people, you're like, cool, awesome. And then you want to do it more and more and more, because if you can't help yourself or you feel stuck in a moment, at least someone who's still behind you, who's yet to go through what you have, you've already helped them, because they're like, I don't want to experience that. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. Yeah.
I'm really wondering right now, because you're such a positive, energetic person, and you bring so much. Like, I really loved your last answer, like speaking up, like to help others. That is such a beautiful thing to do, in my opinion, because we experienced this too. Like when you start talking about it, the more people come and say, "Oh, it's good, we talk about it." But like, where my question was going to was rather like, you're so positive, you're so energetic. Do you sometimes allow yourself in all this, like in this difficult situation, physically and like socially, to sometimes say, "Well, I've had enough. I'm gonna lie down for a week."
Once in a blue moon.
Once in a blue moon.
Yeah, really.
What does it mean?
British expressions. Not so often.
No.
Yeah, not very often do I get like that, because I've just never been the person. I mean, it's unfair to use the word quitter, right? That's not really fair. But I'm so strong in believing that if you don't try to help yourself, no one else will. So it's like, of course you can have an off day. Life is crap. You just want to sit there, cry, eat chocolate, watch a funny movie. That's fine. But then afterwards, I'm like, come on, back to it. Because...
Where did you take the strength to do that? Because it also takes some strength to say, okay, come on, Lizzie, now irgendwie, I had this day off, but now I have to get going again. Where do you take it from?
I think I get it from my mum. She's a really strong woman. She's a nice woman. She's way more empathetic than I am. I still have things to learn. But also I get these things also through my job, like from different children. Because, children are so innocent and they don't really know anything. So when they do it, it's really with pure intention. So, yeah, I don't know, a mixture of places.
Like I read, I don't know where, that like you described your job also as physically challenging.
It is.
Like because like picking up children.
Yeah, I'm sure this is part of the problem also. Okay. Yeah, it definitely contributes to it, for sure. And more than people want to realise, because I actually don't know how much I weigh at the moment, but I know that I have put on something between, just going to pick a number, something crazy like 20 to 25 kilos in the last 4 years. That's nuts. But when I try to explain this to a doctor, they're like, just eat less, exercise more. And it's like, oh, wow, do you understand my job? Like, I've been lifting and carrying babies from A to Z for 17 years. That's already physical exercise. Going upstairs, running in the park, doing errands, on top of going to the gym or swimming or boxing, which are all things I do.
Oh,
it's like,
wow.
Yeah, I do these things. Doctors just love to look at me and go, you don't exercise. And it's like, I could knock you out.
Maybe you should.
I could knock you out, but I won't. I'll be patient. But it's like, it's just like also always lifting on one side can have an effect on your hips. And then your hips have a direct impact on your uterus and everything in there that it's protecting. I need a doctor who understands many different aspects of the human form to then make the links between endo, physical, trauma, my heritage, and then somehow help me in English.
Yeah, we talked about this like before. There's so like many things you have to like keep in mind, and then you go to different doctors, and everybody just puts a patch on one thing.
Exactly.
Although there's like 5 other things to consider.
Yeah.
But it's still like the fact that you had like experienced physical pain, like this physical challenge, is something you can share with your employers.
Yeah, I do. And I have actually ended some jobs where I feel like they're asking too much of me physically, Like, oh, if my baby wants to be held all day, just do it, And it's like, no, you should work to train that out because it's also not healthy or helpful to tell your baby that you're there to pick them up all day. Like, I have things to do and it's also painful.
We know from studies here in Germany that approximately 10% of women are quitting their job due to menopause symptoms. Is this something you thought about, that your specific job might be at some point too challenging because of menopause?
Yeah, I'm already thinking about it. I'm only 41, but I'm already thinking about it because anyway, 17 years is a long time and it's tiring, menopause or not. And then you think about it going into your 50s and it's like, could I discriminate and say lightweight babies only? Or
try it.
I think that would offend more people than not. So that's why I like to get involved in small projects and do lots of other things that I'm interested in. And hopefully that will carry me in a different direction. And then we see what I'm doing in 10 years' time.
We will invite you back to our show. I'm wondering, do we have any more questions left? I feel like we covered a lot of topics so far, but I also don't want to wrap it up in a premature way.
No, I think we're good. I just put my notes away. Like I love talking to Lizzie, so that's why I didn't want to stop it.
Well, we can talk about it without like the mics being on fire.
We can be friends.
Yeah.
I'm really sad that there's so not so much support in this city who like claims to be an international, who wants to be an international capital, and that it is like still hard for me to believe that. No, of course I believe you, but it's like it makes me sad to realize that you don't get the proper care you would need. But I think like unfortunately there's nothing we can do about it right now. It's I think I already gave you my gynecologist
I've got
address.
some links. I have things to follow up. Other people have been wonderful via Instagram, and
But maybe a little shout out, like for people who listen, if someone knows a really good gynecologist who speaks English and is not uncomfortable with speaking English, please, like Lizzie is on Instagram, and we're going to link her profile in the show notes.
Amazing.
Otherwise, send us an email on baby@heissheissbaby.de, because really, people, I can't believe this is not possible.
Well said. My only tiny addition would be what you just said. It feels like weird that we kind of can't do anything about the state of the city. But I believe what we did today and what we're doing now is already like a tiny contribution, because it won't help if like the story goes on about Berlin being like that diverse international city when in fact it is not. And I believe this, what we did today, this as a side topic, right?
Yeah.
To also start talking about that we have to get better with all of this, because I mean we have a couple of friends who are not white and fit like whatever in the boxes we know, and they all like do have to make the same experiences, right? So that is not the main topic of that show, but it's an important side aspect. So thanks a lot like for speaking the truth in regard to that as well.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lizzie.
Thank
you.
you.
It's amazing to have you.
It's been a good time.
Great, thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.